Okay, so we'll see if anyone connects here. Got some important information. Check in the chat or send me an email if you can. Got some important things to discuss about the course and the test and the exam and all that stuff. So it's pretty important. So if you can, pass the message along. And if not, just at least share this live stream so we can discuss what we're going to be doing to prepare you for the actual AP exam and news about the AP exam and what we need to cover and what we need to kind of stop covering. So some things are changing a little bit. So good news and bad news, I guess. Bad news from my end, the way I think about things. Kind of bad news for you guys just because of the way I structure the course. But we'll still be able to go over material and prepare you for the AP exam. Okay. So again, send me your questions to my email or in the chat. And before we get into the new stuff, let's go over any questions you might have had, if you had any, of the bridging assignment. Okay, so this assignment, so the fill in the blank basically. I posted the key on Saturday, but if you haven't looked at it, the key has been posted, and I'm looking at the key right now. But let me know if you have any questions on any of those. If you don't, after that we'll discuss the new topics. But I also kind of want to wait and give some people some time to show up. So in the meantime, ask questions either on the bridging assignment or anything else. Go ahead and ask questions. If it's about what we're going to be doing as a school and what we're going to be doing for the AP exam, I kind of want to wait and go over that at the end when we're done going over any actual chemistry questions. So if you have chemistry questions, please let me know. I've also posted the answer key to the Unit 6 practice test. So if anyone's worked on that, they could look at that right now, and I'll go over questions on that unless you have questions on the bridging assignment. Okay, are there any questions? Post in the chat if you have. Say hi and post in the chat and post your questions there. And again, it doesn't have to be on that material. If you have other chemistry questions, please feel free to ask. And then we'll get into kind of the news, what we're going to do moving forward here. Okay? And I guess I'll just ask, like, can you hear me? Am I coming in okay? Any questions? It's good to see a few people here. Again, ask questions if you have them. Or just type no questions. Say something. All right? Or I guess we'll just get into it. So again, any questions on the bridging assignment, the Unit 6 practice test, anything else? Maybe you were doing chemistry review on your own and you have other questions. Okay, so, feel free to ask questions there. Okay. Questions? Bridging assignment? Hey, no questions yet? Okay. Okay, good. Well, tomorrow I am going to live stream about the practice test. So if you haven't done the practice test or you haven't had a chance to go over the answer key yet, I know I just posted it earlier this morning. Wait until tomorrow so you have questions. I'll go over the practice test in depth tomorrow for anyone who needs it. Okay. All right. So let's. Would you mind reviewing the relationship between cell potential, delta G, and KQ? Okay. So yeah. All right. So it's really important to know just those relationships right off the bat. So remember, the value of cell potential, the value of delta G, and the value of the equilibrium constant will tell you if a reaction is thermodynamically favored or not. And okay, so and what does thermodynamically favored mean? We also use the word spontaneous, right? It means that at that given temperature, the forward reaction is favored. So at equilibrium, there'll be more products, less reactants. So the products are favored to exist at that state versus the reactants. That's what that means, right? So remember, equilibrium constant is essentially a ratio of the products over the reactants, right? It's the products to the reactants. So if the reaction is favored, that means you'll have more products, less reactants. That means the equilibrium constant will be greater than 1 because you have a bigger number on the numerator and a smaller number on the denominator, right? So, if KEQ is greater than 1, reaction's favorable at that temperature. If KEQ is less than 1, the reaction's not favorable at that temperature, right? That's what the equilibrium constant tells us about spontaneity, if a reaction will or will not occur, okay? Delta G tells us if a reaction will release free energy as it proceeds or does it require free energy as it proceeds. And remember, free energy is the energy available to do work. So a reaction will spontaneously occur if it produces energy that can be used by a different system for work. So what does that mean? It means if a reaction releases free energy, it will be spontaneous. If a reaction requires free energy, then that means it's requiring energy from an outside intervention, and that means it's not spontaneous. So a negative delta G means spontaneous, a positive delta G means non-spontaneous. So how does delta G and KEQ relate? Well, if a negative delta G means the reaction is favorable, then that means when delta G is negative, KEQ is greater than 1. So if delta G is negative, the equilibrium constant is above 1. If delta G is positive, that means the reaction is not favorable, won't happen at those temperatures spontaneously. So that means the KEQ would be less than 1 because reactants would be favored over products. Okay. So that's kind of how delta G and KEQ relate to each other. And then if we go to cell potential is the voltage of a redox reaction. Okay, it's the potential of this redox reaction spontaneously happen. It's the push-pull of electrons. So whatever's being oxidized, pushing electrons away, whatever's being reduced, pulling electrons to them. And that will spontaneously happen if there's a positive voltage. So if cell potential is positive, that means the reaction's spontaneous, it's thermodynamically favored, which means delta G would have to be negative in that case. So when delta G is positive, when cell potential is positive, delta G has to be negative, and then therefore KEQ has to be greater than 1. When cell potential is negative, that means the reaction is not spontaneous, so delta G is positive, and that means KEQ is less than 1. Okay. So if you have a negative cell potential, you know the equilibrium constant is less than 1, you know delta G is negative. And remember, you have the equations on your formula sheets to actually calculate them, and you could, you can see, so let me just pull up a Word document. All right, so this is just the test. Right? So you have the, different delta G equations. So if you just, you got to remember, so delta G equals negative RT natural log K. And that K right there is KEQ. So if you want to just So, R is a positive value, 8.314. T is in Kelvin, it's always a positive, and the equilibrium constant is always positive. Remember, it's a ratio of products over reactants. You never have zero or negative amounts of products or reactants. KEQ, the number that you want to know, the number you're comparing KEQ to is 1. Is it greater than 1? Reaction spontaneous. Is it less than 1? Less than 1 means it's still positive, it's just less than 1. So it's in between 0 and 1. That's what we mean by less than 1. Less than 0 means negative, right? Less than 1 just means less than 1, but greater than 0, okay? So all these numbers are positive, so when KEQ, so if you know how the natural log works, the natural log of something greater than 1 is positive. The natural log of something less than 1 is negative, and the natural log of 1 is 0. So when k is greater than 1, this will be all positive numbers, and then this equation tells us to flip the sign, and you get delta G. So when KEQ is greater than 1, you get a negative delta G value. When KEQ is less than 1, the natural log of that's a negative number, and then you get a negative times a negative, so that ends up being positive. So when KEQ is less than 1, delta G ends up being positive. And then when KEQ equals 1, the natural log of 1 is 0, so delta G equals 0, okay? But then you can also say, right, then you can also say delta G equals negative NF cell potential. And so N is moles of electrons, that's a positive number. F is Faraday's constant, that's a positive number. And so really, delta G being positive or negative depends on if cell potential is positive or negative. If it's positive, delta G will be positive. Or sorry, delta G will end up being negative because you're taking a positive number and multiplying it by a negative. And if cell potential is negative, then you'll get a negative times a negative, you get a positive. Okay. And then, yeah, you could say, I think I think it's in the test question, maybe. I don't know. It's in one of the, yeah, I think I did this on the test, right? You could set this equal to this if you wanted to, and directly see how cell potential sign and the equilibrium constant being greater than 1 or less than 1, how that correlates, how they connect to each other. You could say this equals that, right? But essentially, it's just locking down in your head that if this is true about KEQ, then this is true about delta G, and then this is true about cell potential, or vice versa, or any like if this is true about delta G, what can you tell me about cell potential? What can you tell me about the equilibrium constant? That kind of thing. Okay. If the equilibrium constant is increasing, that means the reaction is becoming more favored, so delta G is decreasing, right? If the equilibrium constant is increasing, then the reaction is becoming more favored, then cell potential is increasing. Those kinds of relationships, okay? All right, so I hope that answered your question there. Any other questions with the bridging assignment? Again, the key is there. And then the key is there, and if you're, I think there were a couple of typos on the assignment where it didn't make sense. Like I think some words, I think I adjusted on the key, but obviously if and I think I adjusted it on the assignment, but if you had printed it out or something before I made the adjustment and reposted on Blackboard, then there might be a couple of those that don't make sense. But then look them over on the key, because I think I tried to fix it on the key when I made that. Okay. All right, so I'll keep looking in the chat for questions, but let's talk about what we're doing. Okay, let's talk about kind of what we're going to be doing. Okay, so a couple things to look out for before we talk about the AP exam. A couple things to look out for. I think today the governor of Virginia is supposed to make kind of an announcement of what we're going to do going forward for the school year. Are we coming back? Are we not coming back? What's the timeline for when we're coming back? Okay, so we'll kind of know more about that and what we're going to have to do. So I still can't really tell you what I'm going to do about like your final grades, third quarter grades, fourth quarter grades, final exam grades. I don't know yet. we haven't had those discussions yet as a school, and we haven't been given instructions from the county yet, so we're kind of waiting on those. What I will tell you is tomorrow we're having a virtual department meeting, and we're going to move to this new platform. So in the next few days, be like, if you haven't heard from some of your teachers yet, be on the lookout. We're going to be using this program called Zoom, and it's kind of like live streaming, but I think you guys can be a part of it, and we can actually like chat to each other. And so you'll probably get a countywide email one of these days telling you to make a Zoom account so you can we can meet there. So until then, I'll live stream on YouTube and we can interact that way. But once we get the go ahead from the county to use this program called Zoom, it's like a a virtual meeting place. Then that's where we're gonna have like that's where we'll meet and I can go through new material with you and stuff like that. So so I have a department meeting to discuss kind of that kind of stuff tomorrow, but I don't know if it might just be a department meeting on how to use Zoom, which is it's pretty user friendly, so we can figure that out. I'm not sure if it's going to be a department meeting on what we're doing moving forward, like grade wise, that kind of thing. Okay. So in the meantime, if you're worried about your chemistry grade, I strongly recommend you do your quiz, the quizzes that we've done so far, do corrections on those. And when I get the green light, maybe I'll be able to, give you retakes on demand. So you email me and we'll schedule a time for you to do a retake. And I'll say, okay, I'll email you the retake and say, okay, you got to take a picture of it or scan it, and you got 20 minutes and you got to do it, and I guess, it's going to be kind of on your honor system. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Or maybe I'll just make a handful of different quizzes and randomly give them to you. So there's different numbers and that kind of thing. And there'll be a time limit. So you won't be able to, I guess, cheat or something. When it comes down to the final exam, we'll figure that out on the fly. And it's going to change because of what's going on with your AP exam, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second. But be on the lookout for that. You should be getting contact from some of your teachers soon. I know the county said by the 27th they would have a plan in place, and they're probably going to wait until then. And they're trying to get teachers on board, to make sure everyone can like roll it out all at once. So just be on the lookout for that. Again, it's called Zoom, and I'm sure you'll get a notification on what you need to do on your end so you have an account so you can log in and meet with your teachers. Okay. But so do quiz corrections and then do test corrections. And if you do test corrections, just send them to me. I'm not really updating any grade stuff right now because I'm kind of waiting. So a couple people have sent me test corrections. I haven't put in the curve into SIS or anything like that. I'm waiting on that stuff until I hear what we're doing. Like, I want to know, when are we going to be, when are we going to be coming back to school if we are this year? And if not, like, do we need to post third quarter grades? What are we doing about final grades? Like, we've only went to school, like, we're missing a quarter and a half of school. Like, how does that affect? How can I truly represent what your grade is in AP chemistry based on what you know? That's essentially what I need to do. It's not about your effort in the class. It's about what you know, and how can I assess that? You know what I mean? So I'm kind of holding back on that. But still do that. Still do your corrections. And I'll tell you which units to focus on if you haven't done some of the unit test corrections yet. I strongly urge you to go back and do the ones that you haven't done yet. And, email me that stuff. And then once I figure out what we're going to be doing with grades, I'll start adjusting it, and I'll, be upfront with you guys of what we're going to be doing about grades. Okay. So real quick, before we get to the AP exam, I got a question. All right. For bridging assignment, can you quickly explain whether the bond energies of products or reactants are stronger for exothermic? Okay. So exothermic reactions release energy. So that means bonds of the products are stronger because bonds of the products is energy released, right? Bonds of the products, the bonds that are formed from the products releases that much energy. So what bond energies are the amount of energy required to break them. It's a positive value, right? Because energy is required to break bonds. But if you flip the sign, that's the same amount of energy that gets released when the bonds are formed. So think about it this way. If delta H of a reaction, right, if your delta H, right, if your delta H of a reaction, delta H of reaction can be equal to energy required to break bonds minus energy released to form bonds. Okay, so what you can do there is you can say, okay, well, that's going to be equal to the energy of the bonds of reactants minus the energy of the bonds of the products. Okay, and so, well, when is delta H of reaction, when is that going to be equal to a negative number, which means exothermic, right? A negative delta H means exothermic. When is it going to be exothermic? When this number is greater than that number. And so that means the bonds of the products are stronger than the bonds of the reactants, okay? When is this number, delta H, going to be positive? When is it going to be endothermic? When the bonds of the reactants are strong. More energy is required to break the bonds than is released when the new bonds are formed. Okay, so again, exothermic, bonds of the products are stronger. Endothermic, bonds of the reactants are stronger. Okay? All right, so let's talk about the AP exam and what's changing. Okay, so I don't know if you guys got this email or if you've read it or whatever, maybe you've heard from your other AP teachers, but here's the deal. Let's go. So all AP exams are now going to be 45-minute online free response exam at home. Okay. So let that sink in. All right. So, you know, all year long we've been kind of focusing on the AP exam. It's a 90-minute multiple choice and a 105-minute free response. Now it will be one 45-minute long test, and it will be students will take a 45-minute online free response exam at home. That's it. Okay, that's for all your AP classes. That's the way it is. I think AP Art or whatever, like things with portfolios are a little bit different. I'll scroll down so you can see that information. But that's it. Okay, so this is what they say. Some students may want to take the AP exam sooner rather than later. They will allow 2 test windows, and I think those windows are going to be available April 3rd. Okay, April 3rd. Okay, so coming April 3rd, that announcement, I'll share that with you when we get that news. Okay, now, okay, so yeah, so if you are signed up, I know some people have opted out of AP Chemistry or other AP tests. If you are signed up to take the AP exam, you will be taking the AP exam online at home. Okay. Now they said the test will be able to be, you'll be able to use a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer for free response work. They said all you're going to have to do is have to take a picture of it and send it in. Okay. I'm not sure how it's going to work. We're going to get more details of what the free response questions might look like a little bit better in a little bit. But that's the deal, guys. Okay. Now the problem is, here's the kind of the bad news. The last 2 units essentially aren't going to be covered by the AP exam. So the acid-base stuff, they're not going to cover it on this year's exam. And the electrochemistry stuff and the delta G entropy stuff, that's not covered. Now the enthalpy stuff, delta H, all that stuff, bonds broken minus bonds formed, that question we just answered, all the delta H stuff that we did in unit 3, was it unit 3? Yeah. in Unit 3, all that delta H stuff, Hess's law, all that stuff that we did early on, the thermochemistry stuff, the calorimetry, that is on the exam. But the entropy stuff, the Gibbs free energy stuff, the electrochemistry stuff, and acid-base stuff like buffers and titrations and all that stuff, that's not on the AP exam this year. So, you know, good news is, you know, it's kind of condensed, I guess. Bad news is the stuff we've just been recently going over isn't on there. Okay, and then even more bad news, the unit that I save for the end, because it's a unit that students can strongly have a really good chance of kind of learning on their own, and that's why I put it at the end, because in case we're running low on time, that is on the test. That will be covered, so we still need to cover that, okay? So just so you know, okay? But here's kind of some info on the AP exam. So if you look at this, it tells us chemistry. Units 1 through 7 are covered. Units 8 and 9 are not covered. Now, that doesn't make sense to us because we have 7 units. Okay, so again, 8 and 9, I'm going to show you what content that is here in a second. But that's essentially the electrochemistry stuff, the free energy stuff, like spontaneity, thermodynamically favored, not thermodynamically favored, and like the acid-base stuff, like acid-base. Now, equilibrium concepts are still on there, so we're going to go through this, and you know, one of the things we'll do is we're going to review all the stuff that's going to be actually on the exam. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a heads up on that kind of stuff. Okay, so let me see if they have any questions here. Okay, so what do we got? Do you know if the curve will be similar? I have no idea. I don't think it can be. I mean, we're going from an over 3-hour long test with multiple choice and free response to a 45-minute free response. I mean, like think of 45 minutes. They can't really ask you that many questions. You know, so I don't know. They're going to give us an example of what the free response looks like here in a little bit. You know, I think April 3rd is when it's going to roll out, so we'll find out. Are we going to finish learning everything, or are we going to review now? Well, no, so unfortunately, we have finished learning everything except for Unit 7, and we still need to learn that. So Unit 7, my Unit 7, is AP Chemistry's Unit 5, and that's still covered on the exam, and we haven't gone over that. So we need to cover that. So we're going to cover that, and I'm going to start doing that on Wednesday. Tomorrow, I still want to go over the Unit 6 practice test with you guys. You know, just because it's not on the AP exam doesn't mean that you're not going to see it when you go to college. If you take chemistry, you're going to see the electro stuff. You're going to see the thermo stuff. You're going to see the acid-base stuff, the buffer stuff. All that's very important stuff. The way they kind of constructed the exam is they go with what most chemistry teachers' syllabus says their order of instruction is. Now, they allow you to do any order of instruction you want, but I guess the majority of AP chemistry teachers do kinetics, which is the final unit that we haven't gone over. Most AP chemistry students or teachers cover that, you know, before equilibrium. They do kinetics, then equilibrium. Okay, I save kinetics for the end because it's kind of, it doesn't really relate with the other stuff like equilibrium, electro, acid base all go hand in hand with each other, and then kinetics is kind of like this unit on its own. It ties in a little bit, but really kinetics is about the speed of reactions, and you know, equilibrium, thermodynamics, and acid-base chemistry is more of like what's favored, which is, you know, what's favored, not how fast is it favored, right? Kinetics is a different thing. So most chemistry teachers save acid-base and thermo for the very end, and I don't. I cover the more important parts in the kind of in the middle, and I save something at the very end, because at the very end you're reviewing for the test and all that stuff. So anyway, whatever. That's the way I've structured the course, and unfortunately for you guys, it sets you up that we haven't covered Unit 7 yet, which is, again, AP Chemistry's Unit 5. But what we're going to be doing is, we'll be going over it. And again, I've designed it because it's a unit that you can learn on your own, okay? So again, yeah, they say the colleges are on board with this as far as accepting college credit, but how true do you think that? I have no idea. Yeah, they say they're on board. No, they have done it in the past. Like again, I don't know from experience, and I don't know any off the top of my head, but they've said, there's been some, I guess, think about what's happened in the past. Like, at this time, if there was a school shooting or something, right? The kids at that particular school, if it happened like in April, they're not coming back to take the AP exams and stuff, right away. So I know there's been spot, checks where, like, maybe this school population has to take a limited test, or maybe this, and I guess they've worked with colleges to figure it out. I have no idea. It's hard for me. Like, if colleges said they're going to do it, College Board and colleges and stuff, they kind of, they're kind of tied to each other. So, the way one goes, the way the other goes. It's kind of like, there's some money going on there, so I'm sure most of them will be on board. I just don't know what is it going to take to get a 5 on a 45-minute free response. Like, I'm trying to think of how I would design a test, just a 45-minute test, to see what you've learned. And even though they're limiting the scope of it to, so the units are, so basically our Unit 1, they're covering. Our Unit 2, they're covering. Unit 3, they're covering. Unit 4, they're covering. 5 and 6, not so much. And then our Unit 7 is their Unit 5, and they're covering that. And I just don't know how they're going to do it. I'm anxious to see what the example free response questions will look like when they post them on April 3rd. Okay, so we'll see, and we'll prepare. But we have time too, guys. Like, understand, they're gonna give 2 testing windows. Okay, one for kids that feel good about it and are ready to go, and others that want more time to review and more time to go over some instruction. Okay, the county is setting up right now in place for us to keep teaching you guys. All right, and with the Unit 6 practice test that you just took, we've covered everything except for kinetics, and I'll cover that with you. And it's only going to take a couple lessons and some practice, and you guys will get the hang of it. Again, I save it for the end because it's the one that I think is the one that you can teach yourself the best, right? Just in case I say, hey, you got to read this and answer these questions, and we'll go over it really quickly. But now I'll be able to explain it to you, and at the same time, we'll be able to review some stuff and get you ready. So I'm not. The only thing I'm upset about is I feel bad for you guys, just because, I don't know. I think the most important units of chemistry that carry with you to the next levels of chemistry are these last 2 units, the acid-base one and the thermo electro units. Those are kind of I think they're the ones that get carried on through the most, like as you go up to a higher level in chemistry. And unfortunately, those are the ones they're kind of ignoring, and it's just kind of the basic underlying stuff. So we definitely need to go back and review Unit 1 stuff, where we're talking about what causes this ionic compound to be stronger than that versus what causes this covalent compound to be stronger than that, like intermolecular forces versus Coulomb's law and all that stuff. We got to go over that. We got to go over electron configurations, periodic trends, all that stuff. So we'll have some time to review, but that's the unfortunate thing. I don't know if they're going to which colleges will honor it, which colleges won't honor it. I'm just curious to see. All right. So anyway, let me just show you what I've put on here. So in your College Board classrooms, they have a bunch of resources for you, and I would log in the next couple days and check out the different resources. I know they have College Board affiliated AP chemistry teachers that are going to be doing reviews and posting reviews and stuff like that. But let me show you what I assigned. I assigned all their progress checks, their Unit 1 unit progress checks. I've assigned them to you, okay? So what you want to do, they're labeled this way: Unit 5 progress check, multiple choice; Unit 5 progress check, free response. What you want to do is start reviewing. And again, these progress checks 1 through 7 are the ones they're testing. Okay, Unit 5, their Unit 5 right here, that's the stuff we haven't covered yet, and I'm going to be starting to do that on Wednesday. Okay, that's the plan. But if we get news from the county that we're going to have to structure classes a different way, because I think once all your teachers have to get on board with this Zoom thing, then we might end up having to meet when, I don't know how it's going to work, but we might have to start meeting, during normal class time. So I'll meet first period at 8 a.m. and, 8th period at 1:20. You know what I mean? So we'll see what that's like when they get everybody on board in the county. Okay. So, all right. So again, I've posted all this stuff. This is stuff, go in and review, do the Unit 1 stuff. Now again, our units are different. So it says Unit 1 progress check. That might not correspond to our unit, okay? Now let me show you what these, what they're not covering on the exam, okay? So I think that's probably a good idea for us to look at, okay? So look at what they say. So again, their units 8 and 9 are not covered on the exam. So let me see, let me make this bigger. Okay, so let's go through their units. Okay, this is 1 through 7 right here on this screen right here is what will be covered. Okay, so molar mass, mass spectroscopy, mass spec, which is percent composition, percent. We'll go over all this stuff. Electron configuration. So this is all so our Unit 1 and their Unit 1 correspond to each other, but their Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. Okay, so their Unit 1, 2, and 3 is our Unit 1. Okay? So 1, 2, and 3 reviews our Unit 1. Okay? All right. Unit 4, so we got reactions, net ionic equations, redox reactions. So redox reactions is on there, and then just an intro to acid-base. Not like acid-base equilibrium, all that stuff, just an intro to acid-base. So like your pH equations and things like that, that will be on there, okay? And what I'll do is, what I'll do in the meantime, I'm gonna type up all this stuff for you guys and post it, so the topics that will definitely be covered in one. Okay, so this is the Unit 5. So this Unit 5 right here is our last unit that we haven't discussed. So this is what kinetics is about, rates of reaction. Now we have talked a little bit. We know reaction profile diagrams. We know how to look at a potential energy diagram for reaction, with the Hill, and collision theory. We've talked collision theory. We've done the hand with the, thing. So some of it's we've talked about, some of it we haven't, but we will go over all that stuff, okay? And then notice their Unit 6 is heat chemistry, so thermochemistry. So that's our Unit 3, okay? and Unit 7 is equilibrium. So Unit 7 is our Unit 4. Unit 4 was equilibrium. Their Unit 7 is equilibrium. Okay? But again, I'm going to type this up for you, and I'll post it. Like what I'll do is I'll kind of separate it. I'll type all this stuff up, right? Here, I'll type all these up, but I will post it within, I'll put it within our units. You know, I'll say, so all this stuff, all these things, I'll post it, like I'll say, okay, here's all the Unit 1 stuff, here's all the Unit 2 stuff, here's all the Unit 3 stuff. So that's what I'll be doing in the next couple of days, and I'll share that with you guys, so you know what to go in and review. But again, what you can do in the meantime, if you want to go back and see what's on, Unit 1 through 7 concept checks. Unit 1 through 7 concept checks are the things you should be doing to prepare, okay? But again, Unit 5 is one that we haven't covered yet, and I will be teaching that hopefully starting Wednesday, and I'll be going over that stuff with you. But all these progress checks that I assigned, I just assigned them to be reviewed. Unit 1 through 7 is what's being covered. Now, just real quick, if you want to see what's not going to be covered on the exam, let me go to this. Sorry, okay. So if we go to Unit 8 and 9, they say Units 8 and 9 won't be covered, and notice it's acid-base stuff, so all the titration, weak acid, equilibrium, Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So all the stuff we did last unit. Okay, you don't have to worry about it on this year's. Now, that doesn't mean when we get back to school, that doesn't mean I'm not going to have it on our final exam. So just understand that, okay? Like, you know, it's not a waste of time. You might think of it as a waste of time, and it sure seems like a waste of time. But if you're going to study chemistry in the future, that stuff isn't going away. And if you aren't going to study chemistry and you only did this for, then I don't know why you signed up for the class in the first place. But then, you know, oh well, you know. And then notice the entropy stuff, the free energy stuff, all the electro stuff, the voltaic cell stuff. That's not on there. So essentially our last 2 units. Now, all the enthalpy stuff, delta H stuff, is still on the exam. But notice the entropy and the free energy and the cell potential, that's not going to be on your AP exam. It still will be on our final exam, depending on the instructions we get from the county. Okay? So just preparing you to try to get you to a 5 on your AP exam. I have no idea what that means with a 45-minute long test, but, you know, that's what we're going to try to do. Okay? So that's the deal. I'll stop ranting about it, but that's the deal. I'll have it all broken down for you in the next couple of days as well. I still am planning on going over the Unit 6 practice test. Some of you might feel like that's a waste of time, but that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. I'll live stream tomorrow at around 9:45. Wait, let's say 10. Again, I have a online meeting with the science department tomorrow at 8, and I don't know how long it's going to go. So after that, I will post, and so let's shoot for 10, and if my meeting's going long, I'll send out an announcement saying that we'll post it. But sometime tomorrow, hopefully around 10, we'll go over the Unit 6 practice test and any questions you have on that. Again, I know it's not going to be on the AP exam, and I'm not going to be talking about it a lot, but, you know, who knows what's going to happen. Maybe we'll be coming back to school in a month. You'll still have an AP online exam or something like that, but we'll still have our final exam, and the final exam is going to include everything, because we've covered everything except for Unit 7, and we still need to cover Unit 7 because that's on the AP exam. So, so it's not a waste of time. It's stuff that you need to know if you're going to study science in the future. If not, then I guess, hey. You never know. Okay. So, are there any questions? Any questions at all before we shut this one down? Anything? I mean, we can get back. We can focus back on chemistry, or if you have any other questions about the way this exam stuff's gonna pan out, let me know. Any questions? Let me see. Is there any? Okay. Yeah. So another thing is, I'm still waiting on questions. Let me know if you have them. But also, make sure you share this with, let your classmates who are in AP chemistry know about this, and also, just your other your classmates that aren't in AP chemistry, just your other classes, your other AP classes. Like, understand this is happening. And I don't know if you've heard from your other AP teachers or not, but this is happening. They've made this announcement. This is what the exams are going to be. Whether we get back to school tomorrow or we're not back in school until this is what the exams are going to be. So just kind of thinking about how that might look for AP Calculus, how that might look for AP History, or whatever. I don't like how you write. So you just have one essay to write or something. I don't know. I don't know. Can't. I don't know. So. How is it going to look for AP Physics 1? I'm not sure. So if you haven't heard from your other teachers yet, you will shortly, because again, our county's kind of has said, me doing this live stream, they haven't told me flat out I shouldn't, but they haven't encouraged us to reach out to you all. So maybe some of your teachers haven't, but they will in the next couple of days, because we're going to be learning that new software, that meeting software. And so eventually, I think, I won't be live streaming on YouTube anymore. It'll just be on that Zoom site that the county sets up for us. Okay. Any other questions? But again, please share with let people know about this, especially your other chemistry classmates. Let them know. Say, hey, go check out the last live stream. There's some important stuff about the way what you should focus on and what you shouldn't focus on. So, but also understand the main focus will be, after tomorrow, I'll go over Unit 6, the practice test, any questions you have on that. And when we do eventually come back and have a final exam or whatever it's going to be, I don't know how it's going to look, but whatever that's going to look like, maybe I'll have an opportunity of giving you your final exam after the AP exam, the way that's set up now. And depending on how much time there is, it'll depend on what is covered, I guess. But we'll cross that bridge. Right now, your focus should be, catching up, so especially units 1, 2, 3, and 4, do your test corrections on, if you haven't done so yet, or go back and look at those tests, because that's the main focus on the content that's going to be covered by this year's AP exam, units 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I would go back and look at those tests that you have, and do corrections on them or not. And then, in the meantime, so that's what you can be doing to review, right? And you can be asking me questions about that stuff while we're waiting. And then, maybe starting Wednesday, I'll be starting the Unit 7, and that will be the only stuff that'll be, I'll be starting our units on kinetics, and then, you have all the resources in the AP classroom for practice, okay? And and then April 3rd will come out, and they'll let us know, they'll give us a sample free response, I think. And so we'll have a better idea of what the test will look like, and then we can prepare you that way, okay? So let's see, is there really a way for College Board to ensure that no one cheats on the AP exam, though, since we're all... No, no, there's not. They say they have security measures and stuff. Like, I know like on the AP Classroom, the reason why a couple of you couldn't see one of the recent concept checks right away is because I used a secure question that I didn't know was a secure question, and you needed to have like this secure browser. So maybe you'll have to open up the secure browser on your computer, even though they say you can do it on a smartphone. So no, it's going to be a 45-minute long test, and I don't know if they're going to give you a window, like you can take it on this date from this time. There's probably going to be two windows, right? There's going to be two windows. The tests are going to be wildly different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so whatever test is in the early window, it's not going to look at all the same. It's going to be the test in the later window. And you'll probably have, you know, everyone in the county, you know, you have between this time and this time to take the test, and so everyone will be taking the test at once. So I guess maybe like, you know, you could be there with your mom or your dad, like or something. I'm not trying to encourage you to cheat, but like no, there's no way to ensure that, I guess. So I don't know. But there's ways to make it difficult. Like you have 45 minutes, and I'm sure it's going to be a lengthy test. I'm sure we're going to have to work. You know what I mean? Like we're going to have to practice going fast, like as fast as you possibly can, because there's probably going to be a ton of questions. You only get 45 minutes, and then you got to turn in what you got. And you know, part of it will be speed. You know. And so you're not going to have enough time. There's not going to be a lot of time where you can, you know, check yourself or look stuff up on the internet. Because if you're looking stuff up on the internet to find something, you're wasting time, and then you're not going to get the next questions. And then like so, somebody who wasn't cheating is going to end up getting more points because they answered the final questions on the test, which were probably like the easiest questions. So that's another thing. We might want to read the test backwards and that kind of thing, because they might put the easiest questions at the end, the tougher questions at the beginning. But there's really no way, but you know, with the constraints that they put on it, it's going to be difficult to cheat. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be difficult for somebody to actually cheat unless they have, you know, unless they allow, you know, somebody like, unless they're not taking the test, unless maybe you get your chemistry teacher to take the test for you. But if that's the case, you know, if I'm taking the test for you, I can only do it for one student, right? You know, so can't do it for them all. So yeah, there's really no way for them to ensure, but they can. I think you know, the restraints they put on it make it kind of. You're going to do better just reading the question and answering it yourself versus trying to look stuff up, because you're going to run out of time. You know, if that makes sense. Okay. Any other questions? So everyone's doing good, feeling good. Rainy day, so I guess it's okay to be stuck inside. But again, here, show me in the comments, or send me an email. Who will live stream tomorrow and go over the Unit 6 practice? Like, do people want to do that? I still want to do it. I think it's important. It'd be something we could put off until later when we come back. But you know, if you took the time to do the practice test, you know. If you have questions after you look at the key, I want to answer those questions. But, you know, again, I don't know. I'm just in a bad mood because they're getting rid of what I think is probably the more important parts of the curriculum for this test. But anyway, you know, tell me in the comments or send me an email. Do you want me to go over the Unit 6 practice test tomorrow? Okay, Thomas is a go. All right. Just need one. So, I mean, if you want me to, I'm going to plan on doing it. I'll answer questions, and then, so we'll go with tomorrow. Again, let's shoot for around 10, and if my meeting goes long, then I'll send out an announcement and we'll do it later. And then, so I'll go over any questions you have on the Unit 6 practice test. And then so after tomorrow, after we do that, the focus will change and it'll be AP exam prep, not final exam prep, but AP exam prep. And it'll be, Trace, it's tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will be going over the Unit 6 practice test. Okay, so then it will be exam prep, which will be review, units 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Our units 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the new unit that we haven't covered, kinetics, which is also going to be on your AP exam. And then we'll focus on that. And then once April 3rd comes around, we'll get an idea of what the test will look like. And we'll prepare, okay, for when you take the test. Okay, because I don't know. I don't know if they're going to, you know, it's hard. If I was, as a chemistry teacher, if I was a chemistry professor, it would be hard to grant somebody credit for just a 45-minute test and knowing also at the same time that they only covered, 2.5 quarters of material. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to grasp, but the College Board says they're going to be doing it. Okay. All right. Okay, great. Well, I will see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll say 10 a.m. I won't be early. I won't be 9:45. I do have that meeting, and again, if it gets pushed later, I'll send out an announcement, and we will go over that. And then after that, it'll be last unit, covering that, and then also preparing for your exam. So in the meantime, Unit 6 practice test, but if you're done looking at that, then go back and look at those, look at your unit 1, 2, 3, and 4 test. Because it's those units, and then our newest unit that we haven't covered yet, that's the material that's being covered on the AP exam. Okay? And then once we get done with that, then we can start focusing on what our final exam is going to be. If there's going to be a final exam, who knows what's going to happen. So pay attention. The governor is going to make an announcement, I think today, that's what I heard, about what the plan is for, just when we might be coming back to school, if we are this year, who knows. And then after that, we'll get direction from the county. And again, also be on the lookout for what your other AP chemistry or AP teachers might be doing, and also what your other teachers in general might be doing, because the county's pushing out this Zoom software for us to use, and I think we're going to actually be doing some actual distance learning / teaching, because I think they probably realize we're going to be out for longer than they thought. So we'll see. But just be on the lookout for all that stuff. And we might end up stopping the live streams on YouTube and might be doing this like live meeting interaction thing on this Zoom website. Okay? All right. So thanks for coming, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. And thanks for listening to me rant a little bit about College Board. And then, kind of let it all sink in, and start planning how you're going to attack your review. What do you need to review to be successful on the way the AP exam is going to be formatted this year? 45 minutes, probably got to work as fast as possible, and then boom. Okay, so all right, I'll see you tomorrow.